Hello and welcome to the GMBN Tech Show. What we got coming up this week?
Oh, we've got got a Norco prototype downhill bike.
Also a Vitus downhill prototype.
Oh, we've got some new cross-country wheels.
And Privateer enter the dirt jumping market.
Ooh. Okay, into the topic, and well, this is completely breaking news. A flat bar gravel bike has just won a mountain bike race. All right.
Well, yeah, sort of. Okay, you call it a flat bar gravel bike because we've done a video on this exact bike previously where I rode a gravel bike and you rode the Orbea Alma, so you'll check that out on screen. But basically, David Campos has just won, well, the other week, has just won the short track European Championships on the Orbea Alma with that rigid Spirit fork, with the Spirit of Jackhammer image on the back of those forks, as you know.
Yeah, and it's good it's called the Spirit because it does feel like you're going to turn into one while you're riding it.
Or your spirit leaves you as you're riding it.
Yeah. Beautiful bike, though.
It is beautiful, and I've got to say, yours is much more beautiful, if that is a word, than David's. Sorry, David, but you know, it's matte black, and then yours was just like
silver. That's the best looking bike I've had in a decade, easily, I think.
Yeah.
Just like stock bike, it's just stunning.
I think it's the best looking bike out of all of the presenters that I've seen in the last year, for sure. But anyway, so we've rudely called it a flat bar gravel bike, but it is a rigid bike. And to see that at sort of World Cup level, or at least European Championships, is incredible. He's won the short track on it. He also came 16th in the cross-country European Championships as well. So as we know, short track and cross-country are linked. You have to ride the same bike. So he had to ride that same bike, which I have a bit of a gripe with. As you know, I've moaned about this before. I don't think they should be riding the same bike for what is effectively two disciplines, in my opinion. And then, you know, you get your own stripy jersey for short track, and then you're sort of made to link that in with cross country. I think that's a bit...
Yeah, I do see what you mean. I mean, let's have that chat as a separate thing, but I think there's definitely food for thought with it.
Yeah, I think my biggest gripe is because you can't fully develop technology specific to that genre, and I feel like this is what he's done here, is he's picked the perfect weapon for that fight. He's picked something that is rigid. You know, you're not going to be wasting any energy on suspension. You're not going to be wasting time thinking about your suspension either. I mean, he's probably, you know, he's not far off going for a single speed. I mean, really. But yeah, anyway, I just thought it was really interesting that he sort of downgraded in order to win a race.
Yeah, and he's not the only racer that's downgraded either to sort of get the benefit, I guess you could say. First one you can see on the screen is Milan Vader with his Cervelo bike, which obviously he put what they call the link lock, basically a crank, instead of a shock in there. I've done it before with actually a pair of cranks in the past instead of a shock, just to prove a point. Yeah, I mean, it's a smart approach, to be fair. Just making your same bike and you've made it slightly better for the exact thing that you want it to do. I mean, I'm not sure I'd go that far, but it worked for him. And you could say free riders are doing it. They're downgrading by putting 26-inch wheels back on bikes. Oh, sorry, just for its sake.
Mini mallet.
Yeah, mini mallets, but actually is quite a good concept. Brandon Semenuk, you could arguably say he downgraded from a downhill bike spec free ride bike by putting a single crown on there. I mean, it was so he could do bar spins, Rampage, but and there's loads. You know, people riding trail bikes for downhill. Sam Hill at the World Champs, like, bold move doing that, and he got sixth.
He got sixth
place or something, didn't he? Yeah,
2017 World Championships downhill.
I mean, you could argue that downhill track was more like an enduro downhill track, but you can see why he did it.
He did it on purpose to prove a point.
And Super Sick Toff mentioned that once Timo Pritzel, one of the early free riders, he actually didn't like the feel of having a suspension fork on his bike, despite being sponsored, and pretty much got, instead of running elastomers or springs or anything on the inside of his forks, put metal tubes, essentially a handlebar, on the inside of his forks. So they were completely rigid, but kept up the sponsor's image on the outside.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just daft.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I guess what we're doing is making specialist tools, aren't we? Rather than downgrading. I think that's unfair, but it kind of is. Sometimes all of the tech isn't necessarily a good thing. But, you know, should we ask our viewers? Let us know in the comments below. Is there any downgrades you think is actually an upgrade? Is there any people who have used a sort of a downgrade like Sam Hill riding an enduro bike in the downhill? Is there any that we've missed. And maybe let me know down in the comments below also whether you think short track bikes should be different to cross-country bikes, and maybe we'll pick that up as a topic next time.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, and into news, and the first thing in news this week is Canyon have released another bike. Funny that, isn't it, with Canyon? This one is a variant of the Spectral with the mullet setup on it, so the sort of party bike, but it's got the KISS system on there. That's the Keep It Stable steering stabiliser built into the bike. Now, we saw this released on the Spectral a while back, and we kind of thought, you know, kind of it's just gone under the radar a bit, although I have just made a video on this, so you'll see it on the channel soon. And you may or may not have seen Troy Brosnan messing around with this setup as well at the early World Cups on this downhill bike, and essentially it's here to stay. So there's a bunch of shots on screen of the bike that features the new Lyric Select Plus fork, 160mm travel, Outback Coil Select Plus shock with 150 on there, DT EX511 wheels of Maxxis Assegai and DHR2 combos. Geometry is exactly the same as the standard Spectral, so head angle 64 degrees, seat angle 76.5. You've got 432mm chainstays on there, bearing in mind that it's the 27.5 wheel on the rear, and reach varying from 431 to 505 over the 4 sizes. That looks like a hell of a party bike to me. €4,999 as it is. You can see it on screen. I think that's cool, and I don't know how I feel about the KISS system still. You have to see in this video, but I quite like that we are seeing it on other bikes. And you might see it on more.
And more mullets, you know I'm all on board for. So, yeah. Anyway, Norco have brought out a prototype downhill bike. So check this out. Loving that. I mean, anything that's in raw aluminium, honestly, I think I would love. But this prototype, there's some cool shots already creeping up on the website. We can see some telemetry on there. And it seems like they've got some external cable routing specifically for telemetry, which we've definitely seen a lot of in the downhill World Cup scene at the moment. And this looks to be a new model taking over from the Aurum HSP, and we're looking at a head angle of 62.5 degrees, some snappy chainstays at 400 to 430 mil. Is that adjustable? It kind of looks a bit that way, but
I mean,
don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
No.
We're kind of basing this on what the old one was, which was proven geometry. Like all these images you're seeing on screen are on the Norco site. And they're proudly saying this is what we've done. But
I'm just looking at
of
this image with that sort of link at the back. Almost looks like you can switch it out and put a new one
exactly
in.
That, yeah.
So you can change the chainstay length. Anyway, speculation, but it looks like it's going to have 200 mils of travel and be available in 29 to 27.5. So I guess watch this space, eh?
Yeah, it's awesome. Just one other little thing on it. I mean, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the old one. The old one was a hell of a bike without a high pivot, but this one obviously is still a high pivot, but it looks so similar, bit raw looking, to their existing range enduro bike. Like the same exact layout, whereas a little bit different on the previous one. So knowing how good that range is, this thing's going to be...
Ripper.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, I think. More prototypes, this time from Vitus. This one is a prototype VT01 downhill bike. It was seen at Hardline, so car straight in the image that you can see here. All we can see on the bike is 450 and 455mm chainstays with an adjustable chip, it looks like, to get that. There's also prototype Kenda tyres on there, adjustable reach head tube on there, so big old head tube, and you can see within that you can adjust the reach or fit an angle set. So it could just be because it's a prototype, they're allowing for this adjustment so they can finalise what they want to go to in production, or it could be a bit open, leaving it up to you, the consumer. It's got Onyx hubs on this one, mixed wheel size as well, and it's a Vitus, right? So the geometry is going to be absolutely bang on, the suspension is going to be really good and supportive, and it's going to be really good value. So keep an eye out for that one. That could be a privateer secret weapon, I reckon.
Speaking of privateers, Privateer have just dropped a dirt jump bike. Obviously, they've done enduro bikes, they're most famous for, I would say. They've decided to muck around with a dirt jump bike. So check this out on screen. Obviously, Hydroform 6061 T6 aluminium frame set. But basically, short, snappy chainstays, horizontal dropouts, so you can offer 10mm of adjustment, 69-degree head angle, 410mm reach, 26-inch only, and then you've got a regular headset interface in there and threaded BB to make it a little bit more user-friendly, I would say. Complete bikes looking like they're coming from £1,000 English pounds or $1,299 US dollars and euros. So have a look at that if you fancy something a little bit more bar spin ready.
Next up is something that will please the Chris King fans as much as the coffee fans. The Chris King coffee tamper is back. It was extremely limited before. I never got to get one. I was a bit gutted about that. And I think yesterday it went on sale. Hopefully I've ordered my one by the time you're watching this show. That sounds confusing at the time we're making this show. The one you can see in the images in all colours available shows 58mm size tampon there. Please, there better be a 53mm for my little coffee machine at home. That's all I can say. I think this is the coolest thing you could tamp your coffee with. Is Chris King. It's going to cost a lot of money. I think they're about 120 quid last time, so guessing it's going to be the same. Very limited supply. I think once you see it, you've got to click buy.
I'm both a Chris King and a coffee fan, so I love that. So Hunt Wheels have brought out a new set of proven wheels, and this is Carbon XE race wheels. So check this out on screen. They've been developed with Isla Short, who was racing with them previously, not this year. So the rims are 30mm, but they do have a front and rear specific carbon layup and profile. So there's 21 grams difference in both of those rims, but the whole wheel set is 1,254 grams for a 29er XE wheel set. They've got these carbon UD spokes, which, and I'm going to quote them, say they offer 30% less torsional extension under load, making the wheels very responsible and ride accelerations, while also being trueable and easily replaceable. So that's nice. And they are doing it with a free lifetime crash replacement policy as well with that, which is great for carbon, obviously, as we know. Or any wheels.
Good. They do some really good stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
They're really sort of paying attention to what's going on. Yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye on them. Okay, let's jump straight into the quiz, shall we? We've got 3 questions headed at you for that pub quiz that may or may not ever happen. First question. BSA threaded bottom brackets are, thankfully, making a bit of a resurgence in mountain biking, but what does BSA stand for?
Question number 2 is, where did Vitus bikes originate? Vitus?
Vitus. And what does KISS or KIS stand for?
Answers on a postcard.
Don't know why I was doing the impersonation of you then, but... Okay, so into comments from last week's show, and we were talking about the wild-looking XE bike, the sort of Y-shaped frame, which actually seemed to get a lot of love in the comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so they probably hate me right now.
But there's a few little things in here. So Joe Redmond 7954 said, the dropper lever on the El Camos isn't ancient. It's a Yep joystick to match the Yep Podio dropper post. Nino Schurter rode this setup last season before switching back to RockShox's wireless one. Do you know what? I had to look because I did hear someone said it, but I never found the images. And I did see that there is some shots. We can't use them because they're not our shots, but they're out there if you look for them. So actually, that Yep lever, technically that one is new, but it's a really old design, actually. So the Maverick Speedball post that came out in 2004, the second model of that post, which could be around somewhere. Here we go.
This.
Yeah, that's it. That's my post, yeah. This is it. This is the original post. There we go. It's from 2005, I think, this model. It might even say on there. No, it doesn't. Anyway, same exact design. All right, might not look as nice, but there we go. So it has been around for a while. Yeah, well, just thought I'd say.
Yeah, it's old. Stephen Leslie says, would love to see a review test on the Retro Carbon Y bike. I would love to see how the material and geometry behaves when under the stress of hard riding. Shimano video?
Yeah, I did ride one. I mean, admittedly, this was a box fresh bike that had never been ridden, that I borrowed from a collector's, and it didn't fit me. So I only got to ride it a little bit, but it's kind of really nice looking, quirky. It was a unified suspension design, so it worked when you sat down, but not when you stood up, which to me is completely pointless, despite how cool it looked.
That was the problem with the Cannondales, wasn't it? They sort of had the characteristics in the opposite way that you wanted it.
Yeah, although the good thing of all of those bikes is they kind of look a bit like a flying V guitar, so I kind of see why people do love that design. It does look cool.
Yep.
Next up, Bugboy152000 says, at which point or stroke age does one's bike become retro? I'm still on my 2016 Santa Cruz 5010 and I love it. I'm not seeing many bikes older than mine out on the trails. Am I the retro guy now? Well, if you can actually class it.
We thought it was mid-school, didn't we?
Yeah, mid-school, I think you could use that term. So I'd say pre-2000 would be old enough, but I'd say pre-90s would be vintage. Pre-2000, I'd say retro, and then 2000, 2010, I put mature. So mid-school, I guess, is what you would say.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, come on, mountain bike is not that old, so saying pre-90s being vintage, like with things like that, I think that's fair. I mean, it's all right. Retro is that kind of 90 to 2000 period, I guess.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Ashford MTB said, nice one, Blake, for getting the job making the rear triangles for the new Tourer.
Ooh. Whoa, it's nothing like a backhanded compliment,
There's
is there?
nothing like a crabby bike either, is there?
That bike is immense. I'm trying to convince Blake to bring it to the Malverns actually to ride, so you can see his handiwork in the flesh. Yeah. We'll see. Next one from Ron Beardsley says, upside down fork and motocross style rear suspension linkage. It's about time. Well, both of those have been done numerous times in mountain biking, admittedly not quite like that bike. I mean, the upside down fork, you've had the Manitou Dorado, you've had the Marzocchi Shiver. In fact, the Manitou Dorado is back again, and it's probably the best it's ever been. There's various options out there. And then frame-wise, so there's the Arbor RB2. Hopefully you can see a shot of that on screen. That's pretty much single pivot using that motor-style linkage down by the BB. Orange Switch 7, although the linkage in a slightly different place, works exactly the same. Morwood Macaloo downhill, bit of an older bike, kind of in the sort of retro era. That one was single pivot using that exact sort of motocross linkage. GTI drive downhill like this one here, you can hopefully see. Scott Gambler has the same linkage, even though it is in a different position. It's all out there, but I get it, like for argument's sake, that one does look very similar with that long swing arm and the linkage right underneath there. So yeah, but cool.
And finally, Floyd Blanston says, rumour has it that Brooklyn Machine Works, or Balfour, etc., went out of business because the lift serve parks banned them from stretching the cables. Is that legit? Do you understand this? This is too retro for me to even understand this. And shuttle parks, right? Explain.
All right, so one of the bikes that made Brooklyn famous was called the Rubber Ducky, right? Yeah. It weighs 72 pounds.
Yes.
It was like, are the wheels made of steel? No. Okay, let's make everything else from steel. Yeah. It had steel bars, steel stems, steel frames, steel everything. You could literally, if you had the guts, you could jump off a house and you'd be fine. Like absolutely bonkers bikes. And just to throw forwards actually to Tourer Cycles again with what they've made recently. Here's a little shot I took last year at the Malverns. This is a modern interpretation of what Brooklyn created. Because I don't have any shots of the Brooklyn to show you, but imagine an old version of this that had its own gravitational pull because it's so heavy. And you're close.
Well, thank you very much for all your lovely comments. Do keep them coming on today's show.
Okay, so we're diving into Rewind, and just to mock me, I think Anna's going to make some noises in the background. It's not me making these noises. I look at this week's bike. So please don't forget, if you've got anything vintage, old, retro, mid-school, anything like that, send it to us. There's a link at the bottom of the screen and another one down there you can click on. And the same goes for entries to top mods. We want to see your bike caves too. Please inundate us with all your cool stuff. This one's from Mark in Cannock Chase, so not a million miles from here. It's a Proflex 752. I haven't seen one of these for a while. So it's my old Proflex 752. It was a bit big for me, so a bit of a beast to handle. All DX components, which I think is the nicest looking group set Shimano ever made. The derailleur on it, I mean, obviously it does look quite old now, but it looks so lightweight at the time compared to how heavy duty XT and XTR looked. Mega nice to see. It's got a rock ring on there. So I think it's probably Hans Ray that kind of made those famous by putting them on and jumping over trees and stuff. Whereas back in the day when we were just crap riders, frankly, and no one could bunny hop, you needed them to stop your chain rings bending. And it's in purple anodised, which does look like it's been used a lot because it's faded a bit, certainly compared to those Onza L-bend bar ends. I can also see on the head tube of the bike there, under the A headset, is a little mint sauce sticker, and I forget the issue of MBUK it's from, but that's the one that had the fluoro stickers. In fact, nerd. Where I've got my iPhone, no, my little headphone case upstairs has got a sticker on from that era. We'll put a shot of it on screen about now, just so you can see I'm not talking rubbish.
But what's impressive about this is Mark said he's just done a local Cannock Chase race on this bike. Yeah, so just to answer previous
there was a whole
comments,
retro race with loads of people all riding them.
Yeah,
I saw loads of different people coming up in the feed on Facebook saying, do you know what, it wasn't that bad. Oh. They were like, to start with, they all felt a bit like, what the hell? And then once you got into a groove, you're like, actually, it's all right.
Yeah. But that Proflex fork actually looks pretty cool, I've got to say.
Yeah, the Vector fork. Yeah.
Anyway,
yes, I mean, it's amazing that suspension worked on it, because you had elastomer, was TPU basically, as thermoplastic urethane as the actual spring, and used friction damping from it.
I quite like the high pivot chainstays.
Yeah.
High pivot hardtail.
Yeah. High pivot hardtail, yeah, for sure.
A bit like Alpine Superstar kind of thing going on there.
But once upon a time, that was a dream bike, so thanks for sharing it with us.
Alpine Superstar? What the heck is that? Do I mean Alpine Stars? Whatever, retro is not my thing. Should we get on with the quiz answers?
Yeah, come on then. All right, so that first question was BSA threaded bottom brackets are making a bit more of a resurgence these days, but what does BSA stand for? So it stands for Birmingham Small Arms, which was a manufacturer from Birmingham in the UK, famous for motorcycles, cars, bicycles, components, although it's commonly referred to as the English threaded BB, or the English BB.
And where does Vitus, or Vitus, however you're pronouncing it, bike originate? It was from Saint-Etienne in France, and the name was originally pronounced Vitu. Irishman Sean Vitu. So maybe we should just say Vitu from now on instead of Vitus Vitus.
But now it's kind of more Irish than it is French.
Oh, I see.
Because of this link. Yeah.
So Sean Kelly famously rode these bikes in the 80s when he was top road racer out there, and when the brand was brought out and back to life in Northern Ireland. So
and they kept him as a brand ambassador. Yeah.
Cool.
Now it's Vitus, and apparently if you say Vitus, they just go
like
a pissed off cat. And last one, what does KOS stand for? It stands for Keep It Stable, a system developed by Syntace that Canyon are using on that latest bike we had in news.
Nice. I always think keep it simple, because if keep it simple, stupid, but keep it stable, stupid. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. And do join the debate in the comments below if you're at a loss from now on, because we are debating whether there's a downgrade that is actually better than an upgrade. Down in the comments below.
Join our mass debate down there.
And we'll see you again next week.
See you later.